how to start your Monday morning. Start the fire, boil the water, grind the coffee, add filter, coffee in the filter, water into filter, watch it drip, more water, watch it drip some more, fill your cup, raise your cup, and no. Leave the house and leave it up to the professionals to make the coffee. I'll stick to the conversations. Welcome to Caffeinated Conversations with Brooke Allen. Well, good morning. Thank you so much for being with us. I'm Brooke Allen. Happy to be with you on this Monday. Of course, this is episode 81. So grateful to be here. And I do want to I had a lot of people reach out to me this past week about Mike Campbell. His funeral was on Saturday, and it was so lovely. And his wife, Terry, of course, I had a chance to talk to her, and I am still using my Live in the Moment cup. I will be using it the rest of this month, just because I think the whole idea of Mike being gone and so suddenly, that it has given me time to kind of reflect a little bit, and I'm not going to lie, kind of panic almost as far as, oh my gosh, what am I doing with my life? Am I doing enough? Am I doing enough for the kids? Am I doing enough for myself? Am I doing enough with the show? I mean, kind of all of it. And so I am using this cup as a reminder to live in the moment and to appreciate every second that we have. And just to say thank you for all the outpouring and love. I know Terry really felt it, and I did. Just because I was so upset last week, we were all so in shock. So again, I just wanted to kind of acknowledge that and say thank you to everyone, and to explain why I am not using my branded cup, going against somebody's wishes as far as that. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do, and I want to remind all of us to live in the moment. So again, thank you for being with us on this Monday. So I have Bryant Goodrow here. He is the founder of Michigan Insurance Source. Funny story. We were live just a minute ago.
Yeah.
It was all you. We didn't want people to think maybe you were the new host. What was happening, right?
If you needed a new host, this is not it.
So thank you for being here. And we go way back. We go way back to right before I left WWJ, because I was kind of stalking you on Facebook, as I often do with people. And we had done a couple of phone interviews.
Yeah, actually, the first one we did was during COVID.
Yes.
We did a bike ride in Harrison Township to help the small businesses that, were having a hard time getting people in their doors. So I figured, hey, outside bike ride, bring the businesses in. That was one. And then, just before you left, we did the one on the toy drive that we were doing to help a local charity.
Yeah, and that is one thing that is so great about you. You are always out there helping these nonprofits and really small businesses. You support that in a couple of different ways. We'll get to that in a minute, because we've only got 2 guests today, so we're going to get to a lot in a minute. We're going to ask him about his personal life, what his dog's names are, everything. So tell me, Bryant. So you actually, Michigan Insurance Group, you are an insurance guy.
Some people would call us a broker, an agency.
Okay.
It's Michigan Insurance Source, and here's our lovely
Thanks,
hat.
man. I love swag. Everyone knows this about me.
We've been around for over 13 years, and my specialty is really the small businesses, the people I do business with every day, people that were pretty much just like me, mom and pops, because a lot of times, with the changing of the insurance world, they sometimes get overlooked, and they might not necessarily have proper coverage. So I like working with people that, started out just like I did.
Okay, so define proper coverage.
So the biggest thing is liability, okay? Liability is the one thing that every business needs for one reason. If I said to you, call Sam or call Lee or call Mike, who are they? They're all lawyers.
They're all lawyers.
Right? And they are the ones that, we'll get you millions of dollars and everything else. Well, who does the small business have to represent them? Well, because you carry liability in their insurance company, because they always talk about the bad, evil insurance companies, right? Well, those bad, evil insurance companies are really representing that small business.
Okay.
Okay. They're paid for by your insurance. You're not paying that. So we've all heard, oddly enough, because we have coffee as a theme here, but most people have heard of the McDonald's lawsuit.
Oh, the coffee. Yes,
The coffee.
of course, the hot coffee.
Right.
Yes, yes.
Hi, I got me a hot coffee and I stuck it between my legs and burnt myself, but I'm going to sue a multi-million-dollar business. And then just recently, another lawsuit came about because of Starbucks. Server, barista sticking it out the window, bad grab, boom, right on the guy's lap, second and third degree burns, big lawsuit.
Right.
All right. Those lawsuits, have multi-million-dollar companies backing them so they can be lawyers. But from where we're sitting right now, there's a handful of coffee shops that are just mom and pops.
Yeah, within our proximity, actually. Yeah.
So because they're mom and pops, how do they get properly represented? They get represented by those so-called evil insurance companies because they're insuring that mom and pop. And if they're not properly insured, then that leaves them open.
Right.
Okay.
So qualify as small business for me? How many employees is that?
Well, in the eyes of Michigan, it's 500 lives or less. Okay.
Okay.
But anything above 50 lives is only 1% of roughly the million small businesses in Michigan. All right. So if you go by 50 lives or smaller, that's just a little under 900,000 small businesses.
Wow.
And a big majority of that are 85 or 86% of that is sole props.
What does that mean?
A single owner, no employees.
Oh, so me.
So you,
Me.
okay? And a lot of times when people just like you left their business, they started up maybe a consulting firm or something along those lines. Those people need a certain type of liability that's different than a coffee shop or a retail store. Retail store, you got to worry about slips and falls. Okay? Coffee shop, kind of the same thing, spilled coffee, stuff like that, maybe a little food poisoning.
Right.
But if you do consulting work, you're usually going into businesses, you're giving people ideas. So that's called professional liability.
Okay.
All right? Because there is no product you're making. There is, it's your thoughts. It's what
you,
you're talking
right?
about. It's you.
Yeah.
So you're declaring yourself a professional, so you have to carry professional liability. But in some cases, you might need to stack up multiple different liabilities for the business that you're doing. You have an office space, you make a product, you consult. So, and then you might have cyber, so you got cyber insurance, you got general liability, you got professional liability, and you got all of that all stacked up. And if you're a small business, and if you're not dealing with the right agent,
I was just going to say, how do you figure all that out?
Because some agents, they go in one direction or another direction. There's agents out here. So if I get a phone call from a doctor's office, I'm not good on their professional liability. So I could recommend to somebody that does that line,
Right, because you all have your specialties.
Correct.
Right? So, okay, so you have your specialty.
Yeah, my specialty are like mom and pop, small businesses, contractors. There's a lot of contractors that are out there that, might go here, there, or wherever. And sometimes they might not just be properly covered because, I just need the bare minimum.
And what is the bare? That's got to be different for everybody.
It's usually about $300,000 in liability, and maybe some tools are covered, maybe tools aren't covered, but that still puts them way short of where they should be.
If something should happen.
Okay,
so I'm technically a small business owner.
Correct.
And I don't know what insurance to cover. You just named a whole bunch. But how often do people call you and not know where to start?
Every day.
That's what I figured. So what is the first question they ask you?
Well, it's, hi, I'm calling for insurance. Oh, okay. What type of insurance you looking for?
Right.
Oh, my business insurance. Okay, then you go through a bunch of questions to find out what type of business they're in, what they're offering, what's their annual sales, do they have a structure that we have to insure, do we have a product that we have to insure? You walk them down a bunch of questions instead of just throwing out, oh yeah, here you go, this is what you need, out the door you walk.
Right.
Okay? You ask them a bunch of right questions, and then you find out things that they need or should be properly covered for.
Okay.
Okay? Um, I've lost business because of the fact that I've offered, I said, look, you need this, this, and this. Well, yeah, no, I don't need this over here. Trust me, you need this, this. And I've walked away from business because in return, and it sounds strange, but as a professional, I can get sued.
Really?
If, I didn't offer you a certain...
If you're their agent of record.
Correct.
Right? Okay.
Say they have this big, huge cyber risk, and I knew it, but I didn't offer it to them. And that came back in, led to a lawsuit. Well, then I get sued because I'm the professional that should have said...
But how do you know? So on your end, do you have to research everyone and make sure that you're offering them?
You ask questions.
Okay.
Okay. The biggest downfall to a lot of businesses is their website. And the funny thing of it is their website, and I love the people that come to me and it's like, oh, we want to do this, this, and this. Okay, fine. So I send it to the website, and then my underwriters, who I send the business to, does their research, and they go to the website, and they go, hey, Brian, did you see they were doing this? Wait, what do you mean? Look on the third page, lower paragraph.
So they may not have disclosed.
They didn't disclose it.
Okay.
Okay? So then you call the client back and you go, hey, you got military contracts? No, actually we don't, but we're really thinking maybe one day we would. Then why'd you put it on your website?
Oh.
Well, what do you mean? You just opened yourself up to get really expensive insurance because there's a risk there that we have to cover.
Right.
Oh, well, and it's like, look, when you get to that point, then put it out there. But until you get to that point,
just leave it alone.
Just leave it alone.
So, okay, so for you as an insurer, so are you always watching these commercials that are on TV and always kind of like cringing at the different things that they throw out there? I mean, because you do other things besides small businesses.
Yes, I do home, auto, the pretty much the whole thing, right? I just, yeah. It's like
just
nails
cringe,
on
as
a
the kids would say.
chalkboard. Yes, nails on the
cringe.
chalkboard.
Okay, so
Wait, can we say that, or am I aging myself?
No, you're okay.
Oh, okay.
You're okay, because any nail on any chalkboard, no matter how old you are, is...
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so tell me as far as like auto. I know there was a lot of controversy over that a long time ago as far as coverage and...
Well, auto, once again, is another issue where liability comes in. Okay, so Michigan, for the longest time, and we still declare ourselves as a no-fault state.
What does that mean?
Meaning, you get into an accident, I hit you, you hit me, whatever, it happened. It was an accident, okay? Back in the day, we always fell back to our insurance. So very rarely did your liability ever come in because they said, hey, you're at fault. And I mean, you'd have to do something extremely stupid, right? Where their attorney ended up suing you. It's usually their attorney suing their insurance company. All right? Now in Michigan, due to different levels of medical, either unlimited medical or the PIP, as the way it's called, 250, 500, 250, and then if you have Medicaid, it's like $50,000. Well, now liability kicks in. If you get into an accident and it's your fault, and the person in the other car is improperly or underinsured, okay, and they're looking at massive medical bills, now they have the right to come back and sue you. So the big push in today's day and age, especially with people that have assets, is to not only make sure you got the maximum in liability, but to carry an umbrella policy of an additional $1 million to cover you just in case.
Okay.
All right. Um, it's a weird time in Michigan insurance. You know, the other areas you're looking at is like your homeowners. So if you got a dog,
I do.
dog bites fall underneath liability. You know,
Okay, so what about, so my dog was attacked a couple years ago, and who would have been responsible for
if it was your dog that was attacked, it would have been
those homeowners, right?
those homeowners. Correct.
And it was on their property.
It would have been their
Homeowners.
homeowners.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a client that bought a brand new house, lovely couple, right? They came to me because they're first-time home buyers, and I had a product for them. And the guy that they had for their autos and stuff for quite a while was a friend, and they were having a housewarming party. He didn't get it, didn't get their insurance or anything, but he was an insurance guy. And instead of walking through the front door, he walked through the kitchen, okay, where their German Shepherd was sleeping, and he riled the German Shepherd.
No.
Yes. Well, the German Shepherd bit him in the crotch.
Oh.
Yeah.
I heard everyone groan.
Yeah.
So what happened?
Well, here's the thing. He told the property owners, "Oh, no big deal. I'm good. I'm just, I'm fine." He ended up in the hospital getting treated. And he then turned around and, without informing the homeowners, because he's an insurance guy, filed a claim against their property for that dog bite.
Okay.
Okay. And because of the fact that we had a certain amount of medical, meaning if it was a medical bill under a certain amount, they just pay it and we don't have to go to lawsuit. They were covered in that realm, and it didn't lead to a lawsuit on the property.
Okay.
But the funny thing of it is, I'm getting a phone call going, "Hey, there's a claim." I'm like, "They never filed it through me. What do you mean a dog bite claim?" And then I called the owners, and they're like, "What are you talking about, Brian?"
You mean they don't have to be notified of that?
No, they weren't, because
Really?
he went through the process, went
Because
to
he
the
knew
hospital.
the process.
He knew their insurance because, oddly enough, he lost out.
Right.
Right? And he
Right.
filed the claim directly, never brought them on board, never brought me on board.
So should you, I mean, it seems like you should kind of let somebody know you're going to do that.
Yeah, you would think.
I mean, is that protocol or?
That would be the smart way to do it, because if it's a small medical bill, it allows the homeowners to sit there and say, "Hey, instead of filing an insurance claim, how about we just pay it outright and, take
dole out
care
some
of it."
cash.
Right, and it helps them in the long run to keep claims down, which keeps their policy down. And
Right, because if you have a claim filed against you, that affects you.
correct.
Okay. How
Yeah.
many claims? Is it each claim?
It really depends on the carrier. It depends on the claim. It depends on it's so many different factors that you want to keep an audience and you don't want them bored to death. So
Right.
there's things where I sit there and go, "Wait, you raised it because of this?"
Right.
And then we had something else like a cat claim, which, big storm comes in, rips off a roof and everything else. They're like, "Oh, no, we're good with that. We're not raising the premium." It's like, but
It's very interesting. Who
Yeah.
decides all that?
underwriters and claims adjusters.
Okay. Not you.
No.
Okay, so
No.
not you.
All I do is make sure my clients are taken care of, make sure we make the phone calls, we do the follow-ups. If there's a dispute in some way, I try to work for the clients. All right. I'm an independent agent, which means I don't really have loyalty to the carriers. I mean, I might like this carrier one over another and everything else, but I don't necessarily have loyalty in the realm of, well, it's the carrier, I got to abide by the carrier. No, you're my client.
Right.
All right.
So you have that leeway.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's a good thing to know. Let's go back to auto just for a second, because I know teenagers, my kids are counting down when they can start taking driver's training. And of course, I am like, "Oh, no, we're not. You will take the bus." Just because, for people who have kids in driver's training and also new drivers, like 16, what does that do to their policies?
It depends, once again, on the carriers.
Okay.
Not to use an in particular name, but company that started here in Dearborn, Michigan, that just happens to have 3 letters in their name. Okay. They're actually favorable for young drivers.
Oh,
Okay.
right.
So if a client came to me, now I don't represent that company, but if a client came to me and said, yeah, guess what? What? I just got married and brought on 3 teenage kids. Huh. Okay, here, call my buddy over here. He'll take care of you. Well, what do you mean? Because if you stay with the carrier you currently have, yeah, your price is going to double,
Okay.
and, so then I refer them to a friend then over at that
Okay, so
company.
it's not all lost. I mean, there
No,
are. Okay.
no.
All right.
There's certain things you can do. In my case, I had the luxury with my daughter, who's now an adult, but when she became the teenage years, it was like, well, she's actually registered at her mother's address. So then, even though she could drive my cars, her insurance was on her mother's insurance. Okay.
Okay.
So, I joke when you have those lovely teenage years getting to. Now, remember, they can actually pull a driver as soon as they get a permit.
What does that mean?
Once they get a permit with the state of Michigan and they have that number, that driver's license number, even though they're not a licensed driver yet, it can still go against you because carriers pull from the state of Michigan database.
Oh, and it will show up.
It'll show up.
Oh, you're kidding.
No. So, if you just happen to be divorced
Okay.
and you don't like your ex too much,
You-
simply
you
go,
could be like-
hey, how about we put their driver's license at your house?
Oh, no.
And then they're under your insurance.
Under the. Okay. So
But
there are
you
ways to get
didn't
around-
hear that from me.
No, we didn't hear that from you at all.
Yeah, no.
That was oh my gosh, that is so funny. Okay, so you mentioned your daughter. I'm going to kind of change the trajectory of this conversation for just a minute because you're in the middle of planning a big wedding.
Yeah, she's
Any insurance needs with that?
actually there is liquor liability, but that's covered by the hall.
Okay.
Thank God.
Okay.
But yeah, she's getting married in September up in Port Huron on a beautiful golf course. Over 200 guests, and yeah, it's been fun.
I'm sure, but I mean, the liquor you said, but that will be covered by the hall. But are there any other things that people need to know who are planning weddings?
Well, when you're planning a wedding, now in this case, the liquor liability and everything's being taken care of by the golf course.
Okay.
But everybody that throws parties like that, even at their house or at a hall or a business, because right now there's a lot of businesses that they're just a hall, a building, and they say, hey, you bring in your own liquor, you bring in your own
all
food
of
and
it,
everything else. That's a standard policy that people can pick up, like a one-day party policy.
Really?
Yeah.
That sounds fun. A one-day party policy.
There's a place in Detroit right up the road, that old building that they restored, and they have events in all the time and weddings. I get calls going, oh yeah, we're having it here. And and that when they walk in, they tell the people right off the bat, hey, you got to carry your own liability.
Wow.
And so they can just pick up the phone, usually about $150, $200 depending on the
So it's not.
no, it's not
Okay,
really
I was thinking you were going to say
expensive.
thousands of
Because it's a
dollars.
one-day type policy.
So they can call you for that?
Yes.
Okay.
I did
Call them for a party policy.
there's a big campground north of Port Huron, right on the water, that they throw weddings. And this couple decided to have a 4-day get-together. And so we insured them for 4 days because they had guests coming in, and they had cabins. And yeah, we carried the liquor liability for those 4 days.
Any issues?
Not that I
you can
heard
say?
of.
Any issues that you can talk about, or
No, it went off. No claims were filed, so I
Okay.
was good,
All right. But that is super interesting because I never knew that you could get a party policy for 1 day or
Yeah.
however many days you need.
In some cases, depending on your homeowners, oddly enough, there may be, depending on the carrier, once again, depending on the carrier, there may be enough liability on your personal policy to cover the event.
Okay.
Okay. But once again, you're only looking at 100, 300, 500,000 if you're carrying an umbrella, $1 million. where if you just paid a couple $100, you know, and you got those buddies that you know are giant buttheads and like causing issues,
Right.
that, hey,
Get the
for a
policy.
couple $100, just kind of just put it there.
Okay, so if somebody is looking for that kind of policy, what is, because some people might not even know what to ask. So what is the first thing they would ask you as an agent?
Well, all they got to do is call up and say, hey, I'm having a party.
Okay, good enough.
All right.
Right.
And it's like, okay, where's the event? How long is it? Is it going to have ticket sales, no ticket sales? Give me an idea. And then I go to the website and it's like click, 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 boom, here you go.
And it's that simple.
It's that simple.
Okay, that's simple, but maybe necessary.
Correct.
And come in handy if something should happen.
Doesn't hurt.
Okay, all right. Why'd you go into insurance?
Sold a business off and started the business when I was 20 and actually 18. And at 30, never went to college, never had a degree, never, you know, did any of that. And went out, threw my resume out there, and everybody was like, oh, wow, you got a lot of experience, but our bylaw says or code says that you got to have a bachelor's degree.
Oh.
You know, and two industries that I could have gotten into, real estate and insurance, both called going, hey, let's talk to you, you know. And went through the interviews. My mom was in real estate for 32 years. And she's like, what are you, nuts? You saw the years, you know, and I'm like, okay, fine.
Right.
So I'll do commission sales and insurance. Started out in health insurance and supplemental markets and became a partner at another firm where they were a big P&C firm and learned a lot from the gentlemen I was partners with. I always say to this day that, you know, they really knew their stuff when it came to insurance. Not so much in marketing and various other things, but they knew their stuff, and I learned a lot. And one day after the Affordable Care Act kicked in and my business side of healthcare was shrinking because, once again, I dealt with small businesses, and a lot of them were just getting out of the health, you know, providing benefits, that I walked out and started my own agency and, you know, left all my book behind and started from scratch.
And it's gone pretty well.
Ups and downs, good days and bad, you know. I think we've had a couple conversations since you've been off on your own that, you know, you find out that there isn't a paycheck every week. You find out that, you know, you gotta pay the lights for the office building before, you know, you go out and you have that beer.
Before you go to Starbucks.
Yeah, exactly.
Before you go to the local coffee shop.
You know? Yeah, you find out it's like $8 coffee or keep the lights on. Keep
Exactly.
the lights on.
So this is an interesting fun fact about you, is that I asked you before we started, and I actually never knew this, or how soon you did, but you actually started watching the show pretty early on.
Yeah, because of the fact that, you know, we did the interviews, and oddly enough, my ride home in the afternoon was listening to you. Okay.
I love that. Thank you.
You know, that when you left, and then I saw your Facebook post,
right?
It was like, oh, okay, click. I think you were maybe 2-3 interviews in.
Yeah.
And, you know, so then I started to share it. And
I, you know, so that's what's so interesting too, is that you have this whole social media network that you share to, you do these networking events. I've been grateful enough to speak, you know, to speak at one of those for you. And it is, you know, it's just so cool, the stuff that you do for small businesses and how you look out for them and try to connect everyone.
Yeah. The other hat that I wear, it's called DBG Social Connection. It got started, strangely enough, during COVID. And, you know, it's made up of just local business owners that support each other. But, you know, we get together, we network, we put on events. I try to put on like learning events. Like when you came out, you know, the big thing, people are always talking about social media and doing podcasts. So I'm like, hey, she went from on air to off on her own. What did it take? Right. You know, but the other part of it is we like giving back to the community that gives to us. You know,
how important is that for business owners?
It's a huge part of really what they have to be a part of. They have to be a part of their community. You know, people walk in your door and ask you to, do something for them, some form of business, being a contractor, landscaper, dentist, you name it, right? You're part of that community, and you should be giving back to the community that gives to you. So it could be animal shelters. It could be, for a while there, we were giving back to Macomb Foster Closet, but a couple years back, we got together with Tuda's Kids Closet. I probably pronounced that wrong. She's going to slap the daylights out of me. Where she's just a small charity that gives back to Macomb community, right? She does a toy drive every year, which we now help with. But she also does things like she's got 10 kids that she's sponsoring to go to college.
Yeah, that is so cool.
Right, and she's buying them everything they need for their dorm room, And then come August, she'll do a backpack drive. And, where we'll end up donating little rulers and stuff like that to put in the kids' backpacks. And this ain't Detroit and Wayne County. This is Macomb County. This is my back door.
Right.
This is where I was born, raised, lived. And, you always hear on the big news stations, oh, we're doing this. And it always ends up in Wayne County, and nothing against them.
Or Oakland.
Or Oakland County.
Right, for sure.
Macomb County, small community neighborhood, bedroom community.
Right.
And, it's just nice giving back to where I come from.
Well, I appreciate everything you do. And speaking of giving back, so a long, long time ago, we were at the Imagine, back when the show was at the Imagine, the Palladium in Birmingham. You were actually one of our winners for the...
Yeah, I sat back in the corner and got left alone.
You were there, but you never said anything. So this has been in my car for a year. So congratulations, you're a winner.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome.
That's kind of funny. You gave that to me, and but that's been in so you have a book over there.
Yes, I have the book. Yep.
Yeah. And once we started to talk, when you did my event and you were talking about being a new business owner, I've done research on P.T. Barnum and the Ultimate Marketer.
Yep.
And I came across this book. And I'm like, you know what? She's got stress and the kids. She might like it. I know I did. Yeah. I found some. So
it's daily strength for daily needs.
Right.
And this is so awesome. Thank you. I'm so appreciative. And what I love most is that it has the day that you're supposed to read it.
It's got.
So that's perfect.
You just go, okay, okay.
Yep.
And it's not that long. So when your day's ending or your day's beginning, depending on if you're one of those people that, those, what are they, 7 a.m.ers or whatever?
5 a.m.ers? Where
they get up and read.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's not me. I'm just rolling over.
Nope. This is awesome. Thank you. I can't wait to read it, and I'm so appreciative. You're going to stay right there because we have, I'm going to check in with Kelsey from the Center for Financial Planning because I was at their event last week. They're doing this whole book tour, and they are celebrating their 40th year this year, and they have written a book called Finding Your Center. I have one of those for you, too, so that is coming up. And Kelsey Arvai is one of their planners, and she says that you should use financial planning as a whole person practice. And Kelsey, good morning. Kind of explain that to me.
To me, that means mind, body, spirit, and that can feel a little bit woo-woo, but it's a little bit beyond the numbers, and it's more emotional of feeling that sense of security, that sense of peace. That's really what brings me to work every day, what makes me love the work that I do, is allowing people to really feel confident and comfortable and finding their center and their, that they already are enough, they already have enough, they're already doing enough, and just having that feeling throughout life and not just waiting until retirement to feel fulfilled or feel like they can go on that trip or buy that $5 Starbucks coffee, whatever that is for each person.
Okay, Kelsey, you said that may sound a bit woo-woo, which you are hilarious, by the way. But can you actually give us an example of where the idea of thinking about the person as a whole person has actually helped you create a financial plan?
Yes, Brooke, that's a great question. I was just working with a client last week, and we really were trying to find what balance looked like for him in his situation. And there is a huge emotional aspect that's beyond the financial aspect that we're really looking to help secure. Sometimes you can feel like a plastic bag in the wind, and you want to feel anchored and grounded. And that's where I come in, and I help find that sense of peace and comfort. Even in the most difficult and devastating situations, we can find something to hold on to, and we can figure out a plan and a strategy going forward. And that really is what brings, a sense of peace, is that strategy, because we really don't know what's going to happen, but we have a plan in place going forward in order to mitigate any risks.
So without giving away too much, can you kind of describe what your client was going through? Because every financial situation is so different.
So this particular person, without giving away too much detail, was pushed into having to become, a caretaker of an elderly parent and also the head of the household. So having to make an income that supported not only himself, but his elderly parent. And this is, something that is not usual, but happens in life, and it was happening, a couple decades early for this person. So what my role is to really get him into a position where he feels that he can get back to his life while supporting this new situation that he's found himself in.
Okay, I love this quote that you have, "Your budget is a mirror." Can you explain that to us?
Bye.
Chapter 4, and that will help you define your ideal retirement deadline, also your future income strategies. Also see if that strategy that you have in place actually supports your retirement goals, because as she mentioned, we know so often that plans change and you don't really know what's in store for you. So this book is Finding Your Center. Again, that is happening at the Farmington Library tomorrow, 6 to 7. It is free. You can register on their website, Center Find Plan. That's finplan.com. And you will even get a free book, which I have enjoyed reading thoroughly. As you can see, it is kind of all banged up. So go check them out. And I don't even know that you have to register. You can actually just go to the library as well if you have tomorrow evening free, 6 to 7. Meet Kelsey. And she's very knowledgeable, and hear what she has to say. So again, thank you for being with us. This is our 81st episode. And I know, you know that I have struggled with a speech impediment for all my life. The first 5 years that I was trying to talk, I never could. So in kindergarten, I was always concentrating very much on what people were saying. And all this to say that I am totally freaked out about saying your name, and I don't want to say it wrong, so say it for me.
Okay, I'm Antonia.
Antonia
Ziegler.
Yes, thank you so much for being with us. And you are a life coach.
Yes.
Yep. And you have so much knowledge, and you are holding this big retreat coming up this weekend. But when people hear life coach, they kind of think, as Kelsey kind of said, right? Oh, it's a little bit woo-woo, but it's not, because, you can get so much knowledge from other people, and that is what you try to do.
Yes.
So kind of explain why you began this.
I began this back in 2016. So I was in my kind of 50s. I was in a really the lowest valley I could ever think of emotionally. So, right. And I felt like if I don't do anything for myself, it'll kill anyone. It's just sometimes you're just really bad. You just feel not good. Right. Even though on the outside people thought everything is fine. Yep. Had a family, had my kids, have a beautiful house, and
It's the whole thing, right? Of just smile and nod. Right,
yeah,
just
exactly.
Smile and nod, and you're going to get through it.
Yeah.
And but sometimes that isn't so easy, and you kind of share your struggle.
Yeah, and I do. Yeah, that's what I discovered the work, and then I felt like, wow, it really helps me. It's kind of and it's layers by layers that you shed. It's not like I do it once and then I'm fine. It's just kind of it's an ongoing process. Yeah.
And you, it's funny. So you have twins.
Yes.
You have twins, and they're at college.
Yeah.
Right. But how does your work now affect your parenting?
How I wish I would have had it when I was a mom, when I became a mom. I was a late mom. I was 40 when I had them, which was kind of hard in itself.
High five, man. AMA.
Yay.
Advanced maternal age. Erin's nodding
Yeah.
back there.
Yeah.
And so it's harder being an older mom.
Because it's more challenging. Like everything, you just don't take it as easy anymore. But I think for me, it was really this, had I been in my center, or like what you beautifully have on your cup, live in the moment, you know, like it's all these things, or like not blaming the kids for not feeling well. It's like always pointing at other people, but it's actually you need to point at yourself. It's like the three fingers point back to you. And
Right.
so it's really starting, it all has to do with yourself and not with nobody else.
So why do you
No
think
blaming,
it's
yeah.
it's so hard for us to realize that we have to start with ourselves? That we do like pointing the finger at other people and saying, "Oh, it's because of
it's
this."
easier to point than
is,
work
right?
with yourself. It's
Okay.
kind of like, and that's what I noticed. Like many, well, I love to work with women, but they're just afraid of touching certain things. They don't want to look at it, you know.
Right, and that is. But once you face it, that's what's so interesting. Once you actually face whatever it is, whether it's a fear, whether it's feeling like a victim, or something that may have happened in your life, you embrace that, and then you move on.
You move on and you feel so much lighter.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah. So, but getting to that point, if somebody is watching or listening right now and they need to get to that point, what would be your first words of advice?
Always look when something triggers you. You know, like this. You know, people can trigger you. A situation can trigger you. So it's really kind of just becoming aware of it. That's the biggest step already, because we don't even get are aware of what's happening, and then we react.
And then you don't know why you're reacting.
Yeah, or then you kind of start pointing the finger, but it's really like, oh, there's something going on. Oh, okay, so maybe then just pause, or like put a hand on your body. That's really something that kind of soothes you down, and then breathe. And if you don't even know why, but just like acknowledging something is going on, that's already a really big step you can do. Yeah.
That's very interesting. I've never heard that before, to actually do
Touch.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's the touch. It's like this, just being with yourself.
Right.
Because that's what we need to do. That's the work that I do. It's kind of, you give yourself what you need. You can't get it from others. You have to get it from yourself. Yeah.
Okay. And you have this beautiful retreat coming up this weekend. You still have spaces available?
Yeah, I
Okay.
do.
Tell me. So tell me what people can expect, because it sounds lovely.
Yeah, so it's a Friday evening, whole Saturday event, and it's really about for women to take a pause. So it's not so much about going to a yoga or like having a sound bath. It's really more about finding the pause in yourself, and that's what I want to teach them, to kind of just calm down and breathe, and then reflect on what's going on. Like I said, like maybe there's a trigger in your life, which is like a constant thing that's happening over and over, and just look at this and how you can shift it.
And so, okay, so you said it starts Friday evening. What can people expect, like Friday evening and then Saturday?
Friday evening is more, it's like the sacred pause. That's what I called it, actually. It's like this, just, you know, I guide you into a silence and place, and then we actually look at like this, how do you show up as a leader? Because we are all leadership. I call it a radical leadership retreat, but in a way we are all leaders. You know, you're a mom, you're insurance agent, whatever.
He's a dad. He's a
yeah.
And a grandfather,
You're
yeah.
a dad, a grandfather, and you're leading. And how do you show up? So that's the first thing. How do you show up to get, or do you show up to give? You know, like some people are like, they're takers. Many are like moms. They tend to be givers.
Right.
But then it's kind of, then look at this. Why do I give? Do I give to get something back? Or do I just give to be generous and compassionate? So that's the first step. That's the Friday evening.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Saturday.
And then Saturday, we look at what's like a big story, what's happening over and over again. Because sometimes you just find yourself, you change something, maybe you get an insurance or whatever, and you think things will be fine, but it's not, because you do something on the outside, but you have to change it on the inside. It's like the way how you're being.
Right.
And that's what we do. We look at the story and what's happening there. And then I do a little bit of shamanic work, like a little soul retrieval as well. So I'm also a certified energy medicine practitioner, and so I kind of incorporate that in the work as well. But
Okay.
it's all easy, and yeah,
And it's not right. I mean, you want people to feel relaxed
exactly. Yeah,
and renewed,
yeah.
right? So, and then the weekend concludes on Sunday.
No, it concludes on Saturday night.
Oh, Saturday night. Okay.
So we'll do, if the weather allows and it looks like, we'll have a bonfire. And then
Nice.
we do like a little despacho ceremony, which is kind of like an envelope of gratitude, and where we kind of give in all the intentions that we have, give also what we want to let go of and the vision that we have for our life, and then we give it to the fire. So it's kind of like an energetic
Just like,
invitation and release, and yeah. Mm.
and you know, and releasing something physically
Yeah.
like that, it does make a difference sometimes.
It does.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you actually see it and you're
Yeah.
like, okay, you know what?
And it's
It's gone and I can move on
Yeah.
and figure out what I need to do next.
yes.
You know, I'm going to ask you something real quick. As the only man on the couch right now,
And in the room, but yeah, okay.
well, Dean's in the other room. But what when you hear this and hear, you know, about giving, because so often we hear men do not, they don't really have those deep conversations. They don't think of, you know, I mean, at least the stereotypical man. You may not be like that, but the whole idea of
You're not
you
that
know,
far off, but okay.
I'm saying of, you know, of being, you know, giving gratitude and of letting go of something like a past hurt that may have occurred in your life. Do you as a man do that? Or do you roll your eyes and say, I'm all good?
A big chunk of it is probably more of I'm all good,
Really?
you know.
You need to sign up for this, buddy. But why is that? Why do men do that, in your opinion?
It's just, in some ways, it's just the way we were brought up. You know, you see changing nowadays where they're trying to, you know, the young gentlemen are being raised, okay, open things up and whatever the case may be. But, you know, it leads down to, if you got a lot of burden on your shoulders, sometimes you just got to trug through it and get over it.
And the whole smile and wave thing, right?
The smile and
smile
wave.
and wave thing.
You know, in my case, there's a lot of times where people count on me, and, you know, you got to be there at the moment and be, like she said, the leader of the moment.
Right.
Okay, so you're doing the smiling and waving and you're pushing forward, you're getting it done. And, you know, if you talk to my daughter, it's like, yeah, Dad's great when it's this. But as soon as the door closes and there's nobody around, he's a basket case.
Okay. Oh, so she knows that about you, then?
Yeah.
Oh, so what do you think? So she knows that. His daughter knows that about him. What do you, that's good, right?
Yeah.
That's
Just come.
You know,
She's like, just come on. But the whole, but okay. So obviously, I talk about them all the time. I have boy-girl twins, and I do try with my son to say, oh, you know, well, talk to me. And I will admit freely that sometimes I'm like, okay, we can be done talking, because I mean, but that's with anybody, right? We can be talked out, right?
Yes.
And in your opinion, do you think that you can talk about something so much that you know?
No, sometimes it's better you don't. Maybe you mention it once, but then it's done. You know, and that's like, I think, yeah, that's what the tendency we have as women, that we like to vent.
We
But
like
not
to
only
keep
once,
Oh, okay.
several times. So it's kind of, you know, let it out and then that's it, you know, and then cut the story. That's what I always tell them.
Oh.
Just cut it, you know, like don't get stuck with it, because just look at yourself. So what does it do to you? Don't even try and figure out why. And yeah.
Really?
Just look at yourself, yeah.
Okay, so you
Because
said
anything that happens
cut the
to
story.
you, yeah. Because anything that happens to you, it's just a messenger telling you, hey, there's something that you need to look at in yourself. Yeah.
And do you do that with your kids as well?
Yeah, I try. Well,
try.
you know, it's harder when you're a mom and
Right.
want to be a coach to your kids. That's not. But I'm an example to them. That's kind of.
Right,
I'm a
see, so-
living example. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So that's important.
Yeah.
And Brian, would you say you're a living example to your daughter?
I'm finding out that I am nowadays, yes.
Well, how cool is that, though?
You know, in which you'll understand because they're in your teenage years.
Right.
You'll find out you do nothing right and everything
I'm
is
hearing
wrong.
it. Trust
and-
me, I'm hearing it all day long. In fact, my phone, I think, is buzzing with them telling me.
You know, but now that she's got a daughter of her own and a few other things, and, you know, we sit back and we have conversations, and, you know, there's times where she will sit there and go, you know, Dad, thank you.
Oh.
You know, and then I kind of sit back and go, wait, am I having a heart attack or, you know?
And so what should
Take
see?
it in, appreciate it.
Yep,
Yeah.
I was just going to say, she's going to tell you to appreciate it and
Receive
to say,
it.
you're
Yep.
welcome, right? To receive it, because maybe that's part of the problem sometimes, that somebody may say thank you for something and we don't receive it.
Yeah, and that's, yeah.
And that's another issue. Okay.
Yep.
So if somebody is not used to saying you're welcome because they've been thanked, how would you advise them to accept accept that thanks from somebody?
Just the fact, noticing it again, you know, like if they have a hard time accepting any, you know, thank yous, and yeah, it's like about them. So maybe they're feeling inferior. They don't want to, you know, they feel like they don't deserve it. There might be an issue. I don't know, but that's something that, you know, to find out.
Okay.
So there's no straight answer to anything, but it's all about being aware, yeah,
And listening.
listening, being in the moment, live, yeah.
Okay. If somebody's interested in this weekend, how do they register?
There's, I think you have a link.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Okay,
I
and
guess
then
Brooke,
they can
will-
find you on LinkedIn
They
as
find
well,
me
right?
on LinkedIn, they find me on Facebook, and even on Instagram, and there's a link in the bio, and yeah.
Okay, excellent. And then, okay, so I am going to ask you this question because I know what his answer is going to be, which is very interesting, though. But if you were to meet your younger self for coffee, what would you tell her?
I would tell her to not be as shy as I was, and just go for it, you know, just do your thing.
Yeah? Just do
So
your
that's
thing.
what I'm doing now, yeah.
Just doing your thing.
Yes.
I love that. I love that so much.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know what your answer is going to be, and I've actually never gotten this answer before. Even up to this moment, nobody's ever told me this. So if you met your younger self for coffee, what would you tell him?
Nothing.
Exactly.
I would tell him nothing, because I am here for all the mistakes and all the good things and bad things and everything else made me what I am today. But if you tell your younger self, hey, don't do this, they might miss out of an experience. You know, I mean, I make jokes about my ex-wife, but, you know, I learned to enjoy fine eating because of her. You know, recently, a breakup, well, in that, you're getting this thing of breakups. I don't know, it's sounding bad. But, you know, the enjoying of certain tequilas and fine beers and stuff like that, you get an experience out of everything that you get out of life. And to deprive yourself at a younger age to possibly miss that would be wrong.
I love that. I mean, honestly, he told me that we met a month ago for coffee, and he had said, by the way, this is what my answer would be. And I was like, what? But then he started talking, and I was like, oh, you know, that makes sense, because no matter how tough the experiences have been that we've been through, or the joys, it's still, if we altered anything, it would all be different. Right? So thank you for that. Who knew he had it in him? Did you know he had it in him?
Would you just stop?
Yeah.
He's like,
God, next
"Stop."
thing you know, they'll be calling me nice. And,
We would never want that to happen.
Yes.
Okay, so this is kind of funny. So today is June 16th. It is National Fudge Day. And, you know, I am super excited about this. So according to legend, I don't know if either of you know this. So according to legend, a confectioner flubbed while trying to make caramel, but then ended up making fudge. So that's how fudge came to be. But this is a fun fact and ties in with the women empowered thing, right? So fudge also has ties to female scholars. And in the late 19th and early 20th century, when recipes spread among students at Vassar, Smith, and Wellesley, I think it was. In fact, one student made 30 pounds of fudge for the Vassar senior auction back in 1890. And of course, Fudge Island, we all know what that is, right? Mackinac Island, right here in Michigan, opened its first fudge shop in 1889. And what do you know? I have fudge for you. So.
yes, I know people that call us fudgies for being down here.
Exactly. So of course, I am
Thank you.
allergic to chocolate, so I cannot, share that amongst yourselves, of course. And then I also have the Center for Finding Your Center book for you as well. But thank you both for being here. And I just appreciate the conversations, whether it's about insurance, about your connections, your social connections that you put out there for people, and for following the show all this time, and for you too, because we had tried to connect so many times. And I'm so glad to finally connect and be able to celebrate National Fudge Day with you. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to the bag.
Are you?
And one of your trays are in there.
One of my trays.
Yeah.
Is that not your serving
oh
tray?
no,
No,
that's
no,
not
it's
my tray. It's
not
now
your tray.
yours.
Sorry, my bad.
And you know, they always say better late than never, right?
Yes.
So thank you so much, you guys, and pleasure. I'm hoping to join you this weekend. Okay, I'll let you know for sure.
Yep. Thank
tomorrow, and I'll call you about my insurance. You know.
I'll talk to you soon.
See, it's all about connections. That's why we do what we do.
Yep.
Liz is going to be traveling for the next few weeks, going to her sister's wedding. That is exciting. So thank you, Liz, for everything. Erin is going to be stepping in, taking your place. Of course, Dean over there, Capri, thank you so much. You always take care of me every Monday morning. Wink, wink. And have a great week. We'll see you next week. Thanks so much. Bye-bye. Thanks.
Woo!